Ready, go.
Hello, hello. We're Cesar and Pam with cesarandpam.com.
Grow your business without losing your soul, your family, or health in the process. And thank you for visiting our channel. Those of you who are watching us for the first time, you will find out that we have a business. We have an online business in the travel industry, and we run a business from home. And we want to help people, families, and people, single people who are trying to grow a business, to grow it without losing what's most important. John Maxwell says that be careful that as you climb the ladder, at the end when you get to the top of the ladder, you don't find out that your ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. And many times we become so obsessed with wanting to grow our business that we end up losing what's most important. Your spiritual life, your relationship with God, your relationship with your spouse, with your family, getting into huge amounts of debt, your health. And what I would like to share with you is that God entrusted us with resources, with people in our lives, that it's not going to be perfect, but we can strive with His help to be able to have success in all areas of life. And in this area we're going to talk about today, we're going to be talking about an amazing book called Love and Respect. The love she most desires, the respect he desperately needs. One of those dimensions is your relationship dimension with your spouse.
Seems like everyone, there's lots of books that talk about marriage, and they say that, the number one problem is communication. Communication. You got to work on your communication. And what I like about this book is he actually tells us what the problem is with the communication. It's not that we just need to talk more, because I remember trying that, and I remember going, you know what? The more I talk, the worse we fight, so it's probably better if I don't talk at all. And then you read a book, and it's like, communicate, so I'm going to talk about it more. And it seemed like it had the wrong result all the time. It wasn't until we found out the key, that we have to decode what the other person is saying.
Yeah. See, we live in a culture that says what the Beatles said, all you need is love. It is not true. Love as a feeling. Yes, all you need is love as wanting the best for the other person. But what's going on is that, like you were just saying, we need to decode what the other person means by what they need. And, in most marriage materials that we have heard seminars, and there's a huge emphasis on loving your wife. But what I really like about this book is that it talks about the emphasis also on the woman respecting the husband. And that was an interesting thing that when we read it for the first time, we never thought about that aspect, right?
Yeah. I mean, we heard this message or about the concept of love and respect before we read the book. And you want me to tell that now?
What? Yeah.
I remember how I felt. I remember feeling like, because they said, you know what, every woman wants to feel loved unconditionally. Mm-hmm. And they said, think about when you're at your very worst. You had your worst day with the kids, maybe your hormones are all out of whack, PMS, and you're just not being nice, and you know it. We know it when we're like that. We don't like ourselves. We hate ourselves when we're like that, really. We feel justified, and we have all these feelings, right? All these emotions. But what do I really want from Cesar when I'm like that? Mm-hmm. I don't want him to just tell me how terrible I am. I want him to say, you know what? I'm going to look past all that. I see you, Pam. I see you, and I love you. I love you even with all that junk, I love you. I want that. That makes perfect sense to me. And so then they said, well, the way that you want unconditional love, even when you know you don't deserve it, that's how he feels about unconditional respect, even when he doesn't deserve it. And I think I always thought, but how can I respect him if he doesn't deserve it? Yeah. And I realized you got to look past. You got to go beneath it and say, no, I believe in you, Cesar. I respect you. Mm-hmm. I see you, and I respect you.
Yeah. And this book, the author talks about when he was a child, he grew up with a deep sadness because his parents were always fighting. And when he says when he was like 2 years old, when he was 5, 2 years old, his parents divorced and they reunited again. But when he was 5, they separated again, and there seemed to always be conflict. And then finally, they sent him to a military school when he was 13, and he always grew up just seeing conflict and seeing his parents not being able to solve conflict. And he felt that his mom was very independent, and the dad felt constantly disrespected. And quite honestly, when I grew up, I grew up my parents were always also had a lot of problems. But as a child and as a teenager, and even as a young person, I always blamed my dad for it because he seemed to act in unloving ways towards my mom. But then when I turned 40, I started to realize that, wow, my mom had done a lot to disrespect my dad. And I never had seen it from that perspective. And it's not 50-50, it's 100-100. It takes two people that are willing to do what's best for the other person. So, anyway, we develop habits of responding to the other person. When I feel disrespected, then I act unloving. And when you feel unloving, then you act disrespectfully towards me. And then we begin what the author calls
the crazy cycle.
Crazy cycle, which is right here.
Yeah. So he feels, like I said, I don't feel loved, so I withhold respect from him. Mm-hmm. And then he doesn't feel respected, so he's going to withhold love from me. And then I don't feel loved, so I'm not going to show you respect. You don't feel respected, you're not going to show me love. It just goes round and round and round.
Yeah, and some foundational information for us to understand is just the fact that we have different personalities. Not only I'm a man and Pam's a woman, but we also have different personalities.
Yeah, and everything in our culture is like, no, we need to treat everyone equally. The woman can do anything a man can do. A man can do anything a woman can do. And just like, let there be no differences. And it's exactly the opposite when it comes to how we communicate. We are so different, I think we got to